If your quads haven't grown in months, it might not be your genetics, it could be these 5 mistakes. What's up? I'm John Jewett with J3 University. We elevate physique education. Today we're going to talk about why your quads might be limiting in growth. What can we really do about it? And I see several mistakes in the gym that cost people gains and just lack getting the most out of every single set that you're doing. So today let's dive into these 5 mistakes and show you how you can improve your quad growth. Mistake number one is just picking the wrong squat. A lot of people pick a squat pattern that looks good on paper. However, it might not be the best setup to get the most for quads. So if you're putting a squat that puts you in a position where your torso leans forward a lot and you don't get a lot of knee travel over the toe, you are going to be prioritizing more of your glutes and your spinal erectors to be part of this movement. Now, absolutely, you're going to train the quads, but what we really want in a quad-based squat is to be in a more upright position and allow a lot of knee travel over the toe to occur. So your squat, based on your mechanics, might be best to move into something like a safety bar squat if a normal back squat keeps you really bent in that bent over position. You also could even move to a pendulum squat or a hack squat as some other alternatives if you have limitations to actually just getting a bar on your back. So picking a squat, it's not just changing your form to stay upright, as mechanically someone might not be able to do so. So move yourself into the squat that's best for your goal. Mistake number 2 is limited ankle mobility, because poor dorsiflexion can turn the squat into more of a hip-based movement. It kind of goes back to our mistake number 1, is that if you don't have a lot of ability for that ankle to dorsiflex, you might just be having to shift the hips backwards. If your knees can't travel forward, it makes it really hard to put a lot of priority to the quad. So this doesn't mean you need to go do every ankle mobility drill, as some people that might be their full range of motion of their ankle, and no mobility work is going to increase it. And really, it's just moving into the right squat pattern for one, like our first mistake, or making some alterations to the lift. So one could be easily just using a 10-degree heel elevation, or you could even use a squat shoe, or they even make some heel inserts. And what that does is raise the heel. It allows you to gain some more ankle range of motion, allow that knee to travel. It also shifts the weight distribution forward a little bit and allowing you to stay more upright. Mistake number 3, poor range of motion. No half reps around here, okay guys? Half reps equals limited stretch, which means limited stimulus. And we know loading muscles at longer muscle lengths overall can create more hypertrophy. So we definitely want to get in positions where the quad can get fully lengthened and put tension to it. Now, this does go back to our first 2 mistakes of picking the wrong squat. That might be more hip biased and not allow the knee to go into full knee flexion, but also could very well be just from limited dorsiflexion of the ankle, also limiting some of your knee flexion. So correct those 2 mistakes, but this is more the intentional range of motion limitation of just going down to a quarter squat or a quarter leg press and just pressing up from there. But we ideally want to get to a large range of motion of active range that you can actually control. But what this doesn't mean is going into a range of motion where you also have limited control. So if you put enough weight on the back, you can move into a range. However, we want to make sure that range you have function over, and you're also not shifting tension into muscle groups that you don't intend to. For example, this would be like going into a leg press so deep that you do max out your ability to flex at the knee and the hip, but you start seeing that posterior hip tilt. Those like glutes are coming off the pad. You're starting to round the lower back. And now we're getting into more of the spinal erector territory and more glutes using that type of leg press mechanics. Mistake number 4, not training close enough to failure. Most people underestimate how close to failure they really need to train to grow. If you're racking the weight and you're still pretty comfortable, likely you need to keep pushing farther. Now, this isn't a pass to go train sloppy. We want you to keep that technical form, but make sure you reach a point where that velocity of the bar is really starting to slow down, getting to higher amounts of effort, and not being shifting form either as you're getting close to that failure point and getting close to that complete momentary muscular failure point. Now, for your isolation lifts, take it all the way there. Like in a leg extension, go to failure, keep going to you can't move the weight anymore, basically, for that first rep that prevents you from achieving the full range. But for your squat patterns, like obviously you don't want to be crawling out underneath the squat rack. So I usually instruct complete the last hardest rep that you're able to with keeping the same form. Mistake number 5, poor tempo control. For strength development, moving faster eccentric to concentric has some benefits. However, the issue becomes with hypertrophy training is if you are moving so fast that you're shifting tension to other muscle groups you don't intend, or falling into those old patterns of where if you're more a hip-based squatter, you might start shifting the hips backwards or bringing other muscle groups that you don't intend to. So I want you to have control throughout the range of motion. We want tension applied to the target muscle throughout the entire range. And so this doesn't mean dive bombing your squats, in other words. So what I usually say, hey, a 3 to 4 second eccentric, then a controlled explosive concentric. This can be a 1 to 2 second concentric, but basically you want to be able to still keep tension on that target muscle. Quad growth just doesn't come from doing more sets, it's more quality sets. And that means fixing your range of motion, training with high efforts and controls, making sure you're picking exercises that bias the quad, and altering those lifts as you need for your own mechanics, such as using a squat shoe or a heel wedge or even a safety squat bar to stay more upright with a lot more knee travel in your squat. If you want to learn more about fixing all kinds of lifts, training muscle groups that you're having issues bringing up, check out our Applied Hypertrophy course at J3 University. It's where we deep dive into getting the most out of every single rep that you do in the gym. Let me know what other exercises or issues that you have want me to cover. Hit them in another video, or I'll answer your questions down below.